My wife was a lot younger than me and she had a tween son when we met. Her ex had shared custody. I had a couple of grown children from my first wife. She passed away from cancer. My stepson Charlie and I never really bonded. He had a father and he made it clear I wasn't his parent, just his mom's husband. I respected this. He was always polite and respectful, just distant. I helped pay for his university when he went and we attended his graduation. When he got married, our invitation was made out to his mother plus one. That was kind of a slap in the face, but we still attended and gave them a substantial cash gift to start their life. Unfortunately, the thank you card didn't have my name on it. Later, my wife passed away from a stroke. She was 49. I didn't realize how much I loved her until she died. Charlie came to the funeral with his family, his wife, whom I'd only met at the wedding, and his kids. We had known he had kids, but he'd never made an effort to bring them for a visit. My wife loved the kids, but Charlie wouldn't make an effort to come and see us. My wife only had a very small estate and she left it all to Charlie. He also took almost everything of sentimental value that she owned before we got married. I didn't begrudge him any of it. My first grandchild just graduated cum laude last year and I went to his graduation. My son and his wife have worked hard to get their kids into college, and I'm proud of them. My son mentioned that my grandson had a job waiting and would be debt-free pretty quick. I asked how much he owed. Then I wrote him a check to pay it off. I plan to do this for all my grandchildren. I guess my daughter-in-law and my stepson's wife are Facebook friends. He found out what I did, and he asked if I planned to do the same for his children. I don't really have any connections to his kids. I don't see them. They don't consider me their grandfather. I've personally only ever seen them at the funeral. I was really put off by him coming by to ask about money after ignoring me for years. I know that if my wife were alive, she would want me to help out her son. It just felt dirty. I said that I had the money for them in my will and that if they needed it for university, I would give it to them early. He said I'm a petty little man and his mom would be ashamed of me for treating his kids like this. I don't really think I owe them anything. They have a real grandfather. I'm only including them in my will for my wife's sake. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You don't owe them anything, and it's very telling that Charlie wants no relationship with you except when it comes to money. He and his family have already inherited under your wife's estate. In my opinion, you're not obligated to include them in your estate. I feel you've been more than generous in your treatment of the stepson. For the stepson to try to shame you and call you petty is shameful. Your decision, but I would cut this parasite out of my life and never look back. They have a biological grandfather that could meet their needs. Are your biological grandchildren going to have 3 grandfathers leaving them money? I suspect not so. Why should your step-grandchildren get what would be a bonus inheritance in addition to the inheritance they'll receive from their father and mother's parents, and in addition to the inheritance they've already received from your wife? Basically, you are not treating your own grandchildren fairly. Time to change your will. Sir, with all due respect, you would be nuts to give them anything. Unappreciative idiot, her son is. I barely got past the part where your name was left off the thank you card without blowing a gasket. Your wife would be proud of you for not being taken advantage of by someone who only wants to use you. Disagree. You are the idiot. Every child this woman has would have hated you. She was young. She would have made money to inherit for her grandkids if she hadn't spent her life caring for you. Instead, you stole the youth and life that was supposed to build her life for her children and grandchildren because you were selfish. That really stood out to me too, that he liked her youth and didn't realize he really loved her until she died. Is everyone just skipping over that? That's probably something Charlie could have picked up on growing up, and that's why he's always been distant. I, 24 female, got engaged to Derek, 30 male, 1 month ago. Prior to that, we'd known each other for 6 months. I know that's not a long time, but when you know, you know. We're madly in love and ready to commit to each other fully. My sister, 26, has a problem with that though. She was supportive of my relationship with Derek before we got engaged. When I sent her a text telling her we were engaged, she responded by saying, "Congratulations." But then when I saw her the week after, she got all serious and said I should strongly consider the marriage. She told me I was young and could meet people I loved more. That was offensive to me because I love Derek more than anything, and she's basically saying my love isn't that important. She also told me that Derek and I could date a while longer before we married, but we're already fully committed to each other, so we might as well get married and be recognized as soulmates in the eyes of the law. Anyway, the conversation was so hurtful to me. I eventually asked her, very directly, "Do you support me marrying Derek?" She said no, so I stood up, told her she shouldn't be at the wedding if she didn't want us to get married, and left. I haven't talked to her since, although she's texted me multiple times asking to talk. Derek and I were working on the wedding guest list yesterday, and we both agreed my sister shouldn't come if she doesn't support us. So we're planning not to invite her. I mentioned this to my friend yesterday, and she pointed out that it may be rude of me not to invite her. So, am I the idiot for not inviting my unsupportive sister to my wedding? You are the idiot. You haven't known him long enough to actually love him. You are infatuated. On top of that, are you ready to ruin the relationship with your sister for a guy you actually don't know? The fact that he's ready to allow for estrangement is very concerning. Narcissists and abusers like to isolate their victims. That is my concern regarding him encouraging the rift with your sister. That stood out to me. Someone who's 30 should or would understand that a 6-month relationship jumping to marriage is odd, even if they happen to be one of the few people where it ends up working out. A mature 30-year-old would say, "She's your sister, she has a right to be concerned. She doesn't understand our relationship," or whatever. He's really quick to jump on the isolate you from your family train, and that's concerning. Sister being concerned isn't toxic or unusual. Any adult would see that. They both sound childish and not ready for marriage. OP, I've had pimples longer than you've known your partner. It actually sounds like your sister just wants what's best for you. Don't get me wrong, you can make your own choices regarding your relationships, but it's kind of sketchy to me that your fiancé is fine with you just cutting contact with your sister instead of trying to be supportive and help smooth things over. I love my husband, and I would never encourage him to cut contact with his family with such ease. I have a friend who's been in love with the one 3 different times. She's 27. We're working on her understanding of the concept. If he's the right one now, he will still be the right one if you wait a year or so. OP, I think you're being very naive, and I agree with your sister. I have a tween daughter with my ex. We co-parent, but we don't have a good relationship. We've had a lot of trouble with him trying to alienate my daughter from me. I also have 2 more kids, a young male and a female toddler. My daughter is extremely talkative. She won't stay quiet for even a second. The other day I was having a terrible day. My son had some problems at school and my daughter didn't go to sleep, and I had to cook because everyone was hungry, so I was really busy, and then my daughter came calling me like she always does. "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom." I finally snapped at her and asked if she needs to tell me now. She said no. I told her then she could tell me later. Late at night, her dad came to my home angrily demanding I get out of his way so he could see his daughter. He took her and drove her to the doctor's office. I went with them as well. Apparently she was feeling sick, and when she saw me busy she called her dad. She's fine now, but her dad called me an idiot and won't let me see her even though it's my custody time. You are the idiot. Do you even love your daughter? The way you talk about it makes her sound like she's some random annoying unrelated kid that you must keep at your home for some reason. Your attitude of she's not your only kid, she knows that. She knows you have 2 kids, but she had no choice in that. It's quite obvious, but what you could at least do is at least pay attention and not take being a mother of 3 out on your oldest daughter and expect her to behave a certain way to make your life better. She's a child you're teaching to be quiet, be seen but not heard, and frankly, I wouldn't fault her dad for being protective. You need a reality check. OP, you got triggered because of the noise levels. Fair enough. What makes you the idiot is how you reacted to it. Your kid didn't do anything wrong. She came to tell you something, and in your overwhelmed state, you yelled at her and lost the opportunity to help her when she's sick. Why didn't you go to her later to see what she wanted? Please go to your little one and apologize for how you handled the situation, and explain to her that you will actively try to be better and how. This is an unbelievably stupid argument, not even based on a real situation or one that is likely ever to happen. I'm a 37-year-old male and my wife is 35. My wife asked me if there was ever a situation in which she and our 2 kids, who are a kindergartner and a little older, were in danger, who would I save first? I told her right from the bat it was a stupid question to ask and I didn't want to keep talking about it, but she kept pushing and pushing for an answer, so I just said out of instinct, I'd save the kids first. She then got really irritated, asking, well, what about me? I reiterated how stupid her question was and that there was no point in talking about it, but again she wouldn't shut up. So ultimately I just said to her out of annoyance that in any scenario I'd save the kids first, then go back for her, and that I'd hope she'd do the same considering the kids always come first. Well, now she's angry at me over some fake scenario, all because I said I'd save the kids over her. She says I'm an idiot for being unfeeling and callous, and that I'm belittling her for calling the question stupid, and she's gone on the defensive, basically saying I'm calling her stupid. She's been snappy, not really talking to me, and is, in general, just being argumentative. Am I the idiot? Oh dear, you fell victim to one of the classic blunders. The most famous is, never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known, never answer a wife's hypothetical questions. To add to the Princess Bride sentiment, he should have yelled, "As you wish," and barrel rolled out of the room. She'd be too confused to be angry. OP was bound to lose the moment she opened her mouth. Let the toddler throw her tantrum. If she wants to get mad at a situation she caused, that's her business. Would you love me if I was a worm? It's the same trap as, do I look fatter? I always tell my wife, don't ask the questions you really don't want the answer to. Secondly, your wife is a grown damn adult, or is supposed to be. Can't she figure out how to help herself out while you rescue the kids? Or is she the type to be frozen by this hypothetical situation? Or honestly, do answer the question and answer it correctly. This was the right response. I have an infant, and my husband and I have both openly said that we would save our baby over each other without hesitation if that situation ever arose. How would the wife have felt if he'd said he'd save her over the kids? OP, maybe go back and ask her what she would do. I bet her answer is the same as yours. My ex-girlfriend Kayla and I have 2 children, a pre-tween male and a teen female. We broke up 6 years ago and we have 50-50 custody, and I pay her child support. I make $50,000 per year and she gets about $1,000 per month. She'd never worked even before we had the kids. My girlfriend Serenity and I have been together for 4 years and both my kids love her. She's so sweet, incredibly smart, and so hardworking. She has her own business and makes $100,000 a year. Kayla, Serenity, and I all grew up extremely poor, and I got my new job 5 years ago to better provide for my kids, and I know the struggle. The problem is we have a completely different lifestyle than Kayla. We live a typical middle-class lifestyle, and Kayla lives how we used to live on government assistance, in a bad neighborhood, and uses public transportation. Serenity saved for 6 months to buy a luxury Lexus SUV. She's always wanted one, and we shared my car while she was saving. She posted a video of the car on Instagram and the keys. My daughter sent Kayla the post and she went off. She called me and told me how dare my girlfriend ride around comfortably while my children were living in the hood. She said my daughter sometimes cries when she gets back home because Serenity has luxury bags and clothes and makeup, but I don't buy that stuff for her. I told her I couldn't afford that stuff because I was too busy putting the money in her college fund, and that unlike her, I don't just get handed money. She says I need to get a better job to pay more child support. I told her absolutely not. She called my mother and my mother said I needed to get a better job and do what was best for the kids. I can get a better paying job, but I refuse to do so just so Kayla can have more of the money that I work hard for. I know my kids don't have the best lifestyle at their mom's, but if it's such an issue with Kayla, she should get a damn job as I did. She then went on Facebook and posted about how my girlfriend drives around in a luxury vehicle, but my daughter takes the bus to school. Everyone commented that I was an idiot and I needed a better job. Am I the idiot for refusing to get a better job to pay more child support? Edit, she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. She has no disability and from my understanding she does odd jobs for cash. We live in New York City and the law is the parent who makes more has to pay child support to maintain a similar lifestyle in both homes. Kayla and I briefly discussed my having full custody, and she thinks just because she's poor, that doesn't mean she shouldn't have custody of her kids. My son wants to, but my daughter does not. Not the idiot, since your ex-girlfriend has literally never worked. Why are your kids concerned about your new girlfriend's car when they should be concerned that their mother isn't willing to work to help provide for them? I'd be singing a different tune if your ex was working full-time and struggling, but you've said that's not the case. Time for her to get a job. Serenity works hard. Kayla doesn't. She can complain about it not being fair, but that won't change anything. And she can say that you ought to provide better as often and as loudly as she likes, but it won't change that she should be providing better by actually working instead of just telling you what she thinks you ought to be doing. Sounds like she's about 3 years away from her child support dropping when your older child turns 18. Expect her to be complaining even louder once that happens. Anyone giving you a hard time about child support, explain that the only one not paying child support is Kayla, who has never managed to support herself. Yeah, who are these Facebook people criticizing how your girlfriend chooses to spend her money? Are you qualified for a job that will pay significantly more than your current one and would actually impact your children? You'd need lots more to move an entire family out of the hood. If you have spare money, I would use it to buy experiences for your kids like sports lessons, tutoring and summer camp, not just more for their mom to budget. But of course you're right that the first priority for extra dollars is a college fund so you can break the cycle of poverty.